الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. Adada khalqihi wa rida nafsihi wa zinatul arshihi wa midad kalimatihi wa muntaha ilmihi wa jami'a ma sha'a wa khalaqa wa dhara'a wa bara. Alim al-ghayb wa shahadatu ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Al-Malik al-Qudus, Al-Aziz al-Hakim. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah. Lahul mulk wa lahul hamd. Yuhyi wa yumeet. Biyadihi al-khayr wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Arsalahu bil huda wa din al-haqq. ليظهره على الدين كله ولو كره المشركون أما بعد فيقول الله تعالى في كتابه يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون صدق الله العظيم. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah. We praise and we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the ni'mah, the blessing of al-Islam. And having a ni'mah or having a blessing necessitates, it requires that one be grateful, have shukr for that ni'mah, for that blessing. Shukr, or grateful, or gratitude, or being grateful for a thing, as I've said many times over and over and over again, is not just the expression of thanks or gratitude. Thank you, shukran, jazakallah khairan. It's not only that. That's an expression of gratitude, but it's not gratitude, it's not thankfulness in and of itself. Shukr, gratitude, is using your blessing, using your ni'mah, using what Allah gave you the way it was supposed to be used. That's gratitude. That is gratitude. When you are given something, that you use what was given to you properly, the way it was supposed to be used. If I give you a shirt, it's a gift. You show that gratitude by wearing the shirt, not using it as toilet paper and putting it in the trash. That's the opposite of it. That's, I don't care about what you've given me. There's toilet paper right here, but I'm going to use the shirt you gave me to wipe my hind parts with. That's the essence of gratitude. Using what Allah gave you. Using what Allah gave us the way it was supposed to be used. And it is said that Many times, we are not grateful for a thing until it's taken away from us. You don't realize what blessing you had until you lose it. And I said yesterday, it was almost heartbreaking. I came here for Salat, and the adhan was called. And I'm like, subhanallah, the adhan was called. It's not happening in a lot of places. All over the world, masajid are closing. Some of those masajid that are closed where they're still able to do the adhan, in the adhan, they're saying pray in your homes. You don't know what a blessing you have until it's taken away. We have to be thankful for what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Allah said, "O you who believe, when the call is made for Yawmul Jumu'ah, hasten to the remembrance of Allah." Some people can't do that. You people that are here, I have the ability to do that. Today, right now, we don't know about tomorrow or next week. It seems as if the screws are tightening. Some people, it's better for them to stay at home. We have a blessing, we have to use it. Everything you have is a blessing. You may think you're in a bad situation, you're poor, your clothes are not new. There are people that don't have clothes. You're here, you have your health. Some people don't have their health. I'm sure all or most of us know someone who's in an at-risk group. This thing that's going around could complicate their situation. Be thankful for them while they're here. Hasten to the remembrance of Allah. Hasten to the remembrance of Allah and leave off all business. That is better for you if you but knew. Reflect. Just think, 2-3 weeks ago, what were we all concerned about? As individuals, what was on our mind? And now, we are afflicted with something that we can't see. We don't know if we as individuals have it or not, unless you've been tested. But all of our thoughts and concerns are surrounding that thing. This is how we should live every day. Kulu nafsin dha'iqatul maut, thumma ilayna turja'un. Every person must taste death. Everybody. And it is to Him, to Allah, that we should all be returned. I want to concentrate, I want us to focus on the mindset, the thinking of the early community, the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, for a few minutes. You know, one time, this companion was sent to teach a tribe of people the Quran. But it was a setup. They didn't really want to learn Islam. They didn't want to learn the Quran. It was an ambush. And so this particular companion was conversating with the people who were about to ambush him. And someone snuck up behind him and stabbed him, not with a little knife, a big knife. And the first thing he saw was the blade coming from the back, coming out of the stomach. His first words, his initial reaction was, Fustu bi Rabbil Kaaba. I won by the Lord of the Kaaba. Look at the mindset. He said, oh my God. His mindset. He's been mortally wounded. Instinctively, he said, I won. Like someone in the casino, when the bells and the noise start going, oh, I won. He said, I won. For the believer, there's only two things that can happen for us in this situation. Either we win or we win. Well, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ورضي الله تعالى عن سادة التابعين وعلماء العاملين وأئمة الأربعة المجتهدين ومقلدهم إلى يوم الدين أما بعد. Alhamdulillah, Alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen. You know the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, and this is extremely important. You have to pay attention to this. This is the words of our Prophet, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He's not a liar. And Abi Yahya Suhaib ibn Sinan, radiallahu ta'ala anhu, it was narrated on authority of Suhaib ibn Sinan, famous as Suhaib al-Rumi. May Allah be pleased with him. He said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, Ajaban al-amr al-mu'min, amazing, wondrous, strange, is the affair of the believer. Ajaban li-amr al-mu'min. Inna amrahu kulluhu lahu khayr. Everything, verily everything for him is good. Everything for the believer is good. Inna amrahu kulluhu lahu khayr. Everything for the believer is good. What did he say? Everything for the believer is good. Everything. Everything. Some things, maybe 50% of the time. No, everything. Everything for the believer is good. Inna amrahu kullahu khayr. Everything for the believer is good. This is the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam talking. The one who we bore witness to that brought us into Islam. The one that we say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam Rasulullah. Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. Everything for the believer is good. Everything. Everything. Don't be sad. Don't be worried. If the worst thing happens, you still won. وَلَيْسَ ذَلَكَ لِأَحَدٍ إِلَّا لِلْمُؤْمِنِ. And this is not the case, this is not the situation for anyone except the believer. This is not the case for anyone except the believer. Except the believer. Except the believer. Think about this. This is something that is exclusive for the believers. This situation. What situation? This strange thing that no matter what happens to a believer, it's good. This is only for the believer. That's why it's always for us to keep our iman, our faith, intact. And to always work on our iman, our faith. He said, In asabatu sara'u shakara. If something pleasant happens to him, he's thankful. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And therefore, that's good for him. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. السببية, causative. What am I saying? Something good happens to him. Fashakara. He's thankful. He's grateful. In the very beginning of the Khutbah, we talked about gratitude, being thankful. Something good happens to him. He's thankful. Therefore, that's good to him. Why is it good for him? Well, is it good because something good happened to him? No. It's good because he was thankful. The Prophet ﷺ is teaching us that it's not what happens to us that determines whether it's good or bad. It's how we react to what happens to us that determines whether it's good or bad. It's not this situation, it's our reaction to it. That's what's going to make it good, and that's what's going to make it bad. The good thing happened, he was thankful. That's why it's good for him. وَإِنْ صَابَتْهُ ضَرَّاءُ صَبَرَ فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. Some adversity, something unpleasant happens to him. فَصَبَرَ. Sabara. He was patient. What does being patient mean? Patient does not mean sit, wait, do nothing. Patient means do what you're supposed to do and continue doing it in spite of the adversity, even though you don't see the result that you want to see. I give you a practical example of patience. I was driving the car in the middle of the night. Saeed was with me, but he was so young he might not remember. I had just got my car fixed. I had hit a deer in the middle of the night. I got my car fixed. Got the car back. But they didn't line the hood latch properly. And so when the wind hit my car, the wind got under the hood. I'm driving in the middle of the night, no street lights, on the highway. I forgot how fast I was going, 60, 70 miles an hour. It's the highway. The hood flew up. Patience is, okay, alhamdulillah, I'm driving straight. Don't react. You can't see anything. It's dark. The windshield is covered because the hood flew up. What are you going to do? Take your foot off the gas. Bend down, look at that between that little space. When your speed reduces enough, then you pull over. That's exactly what happened. It's a practical example, maybe not a good example, but that's what patience is. Patience is, you don't and take your hand off the steering wheel, or just freak out and just turn. No, you don't know. You got to think. Was there a car next to me when the hood flew up? Was there a big shoulder over there? All of these things have to happen in a split second. Patience, sabara. Keep doing what you're supposed to do, even though you don't achieve or see the results that you expect to see. فَكَانَ خَيْرًا لَهُ. And therefore that's good for him. Something bad happens to him. But he was patient. So therefore that's good for him. The bad thing that happened to him is not bad for him, it's good. Because he was patient for it. He was patient because of it. That's what makes it good. Not the thing that happens to us, but how we respond, how we react to what has happened to us. Now in conclusion, I want to mention something, and I believe that it's appropriate. Because of our situation, we're hearing a lot of analogies and reference references back to the ta'un, the plague that broke out during the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab's Khilafah. And I want to focus on the response of, not the response, the mindset of the early Muslims. I keep saying this is because these are our examples. And this is what we have to be like. Umar ibn al-Khattab was marching or was with a group of believers heading towards Syria, Sham. If you know the history, you know that Sham, particularly Jerusalem, was in the process of being handed over to the believers. And they were in a negotiation, but they wanted to meet with Umar ibn al-Khattab himself. And so they started making their way. One of the leaders of the army at the time was Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. And so when they got there, or close there, the news that the plague had just emerged came out. So Umar was like, we're going to turn around. And if you're familiar with what happened, when he first got the news, he hadn't heard the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ yet. Remember, the Prophet ﷺ had passed already. There's a well-known hadith that we know well now, but Umar didn't know it at the time. That when you're in a place and a plague breaks out, don't leave it. Or if you hear about a place and you're not in it and a plague breaks out in that place, don't go to it. Umar himself hadn't heard about that hadith yet. So he hears about this plague. And Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, who's the commander of the armies there, responded to Umar when he said, we're going to turn back around. We don't need to be getting sick. Listen to what Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah said. He's one of the 10 companions that's promised paradise. He's not a slack or a slouch of a companions, and none of them are slouches or slacks. But he's the top, he's the cream of the crop. He came into Islam early on the da'wah of Abu Bakr Siddiq, radiallahu ta'ala. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah said, you going to run from the qadr of Allah? Are you going to run from the decree of Allah? Umar ibn al-Khattab said, Ya Abu Ubaidah, O Abu Ubaidah. And you have to understand, Abu Ubaidah and Umar ibn al-Khattab was very close, very tight, very close friends. They loved each other. And Umar expressed this many times. Umar ibn al-Khattab said, O Abu Ubaidah, would that if someone else would have said that other than you? Umar ibn al-Khattab said, nah. Nafiru min qadrillahi ila qadrillahi. Yes, we're going to run from the qadr of Allah to the qadr of Allah. We're running from the decree of Allah to the decree of Allah. Meaning you can't escape the decree of Allah. You can't run from it. And then he said, do you see that if you had camels and you descended in the valley, and one part of the land was barren, no vegetation, nothing, and the other part was fertile, what are you going to do? You're going to take your camels to the part that's fertile so they can eat. You're not going to choose the barren land. Likewise, we're going to choose to stay away from this place. Right? Fast forward. Umar ibn al-Khattab goes back to Medina. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah still commanding the armies there. This plague is spreading. And Umar hears that the plague is about to reach where Abu Ubaidah is. Umar writes a letter to him and says, listen, you need to come back to Medina as soon as possible. He don't say why, he just gives a direct order. You have to come back to Medina as soon as possible. If this letter reaches you in the daytime, make sure you start leaving before nighttime comes. And if this letter reaches you at nighttime, make sure that you start leaving before daytime comes. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah got the letter and he spied. He said, "Boy, I think he's slick. Because of his love of me, he's trying to get me out of here and save me from the plague." Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah wrote back to him. And he said, "Oh, commander of the believers, oh, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to save me from the plague or whatever, but I'm not going to save myself from the plague and leave my soldiers under me to, be afflicted with it. I would please, if you excuse me, or please, excuse me for disobeying your direct order, and you lift that sin from me. I prefer to stay right here." Sent the letter back. Letter gets to Umar. Umar reads it and starts crying. He loved Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah. And some people that was around Umar said, "Abu Ubaidah al-Jarrah, why are you crying? Did he die?" He said, "No, but it's inevitable. It's about to happen." And he started crying. Back in Syria, when the plague had reached him to the point where he knew he was on the verge of death, he called all of his soldiers. And he said, "Let me give you some advice which will cause you to be on the path of goodness always." And we're going to end the khutbah with the advice that Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah gave to his soldiers. And this is the same advice that I'm giving to you. The very first thing he said was, establish the prayer. He said, Aqimu Salah, establish the prayer. In our tafsir class, we're going over the beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, and we talk at length about how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he doesn't always say do the prayer, he always says establish the prayer. And there's a difference from merely doing the prayer and establishing the prayer. The prayer is an institution, it's just not some motions and some words you say. It's a whole institution that's very comprehensive. And you can see even this man on the verge of death, he's giving the believers some advice. And the first thing he says is establish the salah. And then he said fast the month of Ramadan. Then he said give sadaqah. And then he said perform hajj and ummah. And then he said remain united and support one another. Extremely important. During this time, don't get into argumentation. That's what Shaitan wants. If you're like us, that we happen to be blessed and have our masjid still open, don't criticize those Muslims who close their masjid. They done what they thought was best for their community. And you have to assume that every Muslim community is doing what they think is best for their people. Don't criticize them. Everybody's situation is not the same. And likewise, if you're on that other side and you think you should close the masjid community, don't criticize us. It's not going to benefit us. So remain united. You have to have husnul dhann about the believers. Assume that everyone is doing what they think is best. Anytime something happens, we always find an excuse to argue, get an argumentation out of it. Doesn't matter what happens, we find a reason to argue. Don't do that. Because that means you lose, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. وَلَا تَنَازَعُوا فَتَفْشَلُوا وَتَذْهَبَ رِيحُكُمْ. That if you argue with one another, you lose, you fail, and your spirit, your himmah will leave you. Right? So he said, remain united and support one another. He said, be sincere to your commanders and do not conceal anything from them. Leaders and commanders can only make decisions based upon the information that they have. If you're holding back information, their decisions and their leadership is going to be faulty. So don't hide anything. He said, do not let the world destroy you. For even if man were to live 1,000 years, he will still end up with this fate that you see me in. So in other words, don't get caught up in the dunya. All the things we were worried about a couple of weeks ago. You see how it don't mean anything now? This thing is going to pass. It's going to pass. How do we know? Because we know some major signs of the hour hadn't appeared yet. The world is going to go on. When it does passes, Those of us who are here, remember how we were today. And stay like that. That's training. Last week we talked about some of the great awliya of the past would dig a grave in their backyard and lay in it to imagine death, to enclose their eyes and imagine the angels coming to them, questioning them. Imagine the punishment or the pleasures of the grave. We have to always be thinking about our death, our own mortality. Special force soldiers, that's part of their training. They write their own obituaries. They constantly think about their death. And this is what the Prophet ﷺ told us, to constantly do dhikr, reminder of the destroyer of pleasures. We should always be thinking about our own death, our own mortality. And then after he said that, he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. He ended on that, and then he turned to Mu'adh ibn Jabal, and he said, lead the people in the prayer. And then he died. Allah took his soul. These are the things that we should be concerned about. This is a man, one of the greatest human beings after the prophets and messengers to have walked face earth. Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah, one of the 10 companions who was promised paradise. And at his death, this was what he was worried about. And so this is what we should be worried about. ربنا اتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.